Okay, traditional security. Yeah, so the study of IR, or the realm of IR, if you may, used to only be concerned with traditional security. Yeah, when we are talking about traditional security, we are talking about negative peace, the conditions, absence of war, yeah? Peace from war, peace from conflict, and peace from direct violence. So if I hit you, if I kick you or something, it means that okay, I'm sorry, please mute yourself. Okay, yeah. So when we're talking about traditional security, it's about how we are talking the safety of the states, yeah, safety of the countries. We're usually talking about how we perceive the threats from other countries and what we were going to do to deal with it, yeah, deal with the threats. So that's why negative peace usually derives from the needs to be safe from outside threats. So the threats coming from the outside. It could be the threats of war, it could be threats of terrorism and everything. But as we can see, yeah, from the realm of the IR, well, most of the time, yeah, we don't actually see a huge war outside, yeah, not anymore. I mean, we used to have two World War, yeah, World War I and World War II, but we never see any huge war in that scale as we can see right now, yeah. Like maybe we can see some, well, again, it's still war, yeah, but it doesn't really affect the whole world. For example, Israel, Palestine, and then Syria and the US and the Iraq, Afghanistan, and everything and so forth, yeah. So we still have war, but it doesn't actually affect the whole world, yeah, as it used to be. And when we're talking about Indonesia, we haven't been to a really actual war, right? Like the last war that we actually went to was the war to gain independence. But then we never got into any war, yeah. We almost got into war with Malaysia, but we canceled it somehow. So again, we've never been to any war before. So the question remains, what would we do with these peaceful conditions, these peaceful situations? I mean, it's not enough for us to just try to reach the peace, but what we do with peace itself, yeah. What now? What's next? So that's why when we are discussing about negative peace, we are discussing about how to stop war, how to prevent direct violence. And then once we succeeded in the suspecting the direct violence, then what's next? What to do? Okay, next. Okay, so then when we step into the non-traditional security, it's the discipline that evolved over time, and it includes indirect violence here. So again, when we're talking about direct violence, it's about well, when people hurting each other physically, yeah, it's direct violence. But when we're talking about indirect violence, it's about structural. Yeah, it's not about it's not necessarily about how we are hurting you in the physical form, but how we are affecting your life in general. So Johan Galtung, one of the most famous scholars who learn about peace, one of his publications about violence, peace, and peace research, he said that indirect violence is also called structural violence. A condition where the structure of the society actively prevents an individual from fulfilling their daily needs. Actively prevents an individual from fulfilling their daily needs. So again, once we reach the peaceful conditions, peaceful situations, no war, no direct violence whatsoever, what's next then? Like, do we let people just live the way they are and, I don't know, maybe struggle for impact and struggle for basic human life? Like, every people deserve decent human life, right? I mean, if people deserve to gain any recognition, every people deserves to be free from any suffering. Yeah, I mean, it is literally on our constitution as well, yeah, Indonesia's constitution. So I think it's really important to emphasize on the fulfilling their daily needs. As we can see right now, yeah, it's really hard to see some of people out there. Yeah, they're finding it really hard to fulfill their daily needs. Let alone after the COVID-19 pandemic began. Yeah. Before the COVID-19 hit, it's already hard for some people to live their life. And then the COVID-19 pandemic came, yeah, and then it got all worse. It's all downhill from there. So that's why structural violence is about the conditions, the circumstances, yeah, the structure that prevents an individual from fulfilling their daily needs. It means that there's only some people with privileges who could only afford this decent human life. And it's really sad. It's really, really, well, horrible actually, because once the state is free from the threats of war, yeah, once we can gain negative peace, it's the homework of all people to make sure that we can provide positive peace as well, which is free from the structural violence. Yeah. So we cannot just, I don't know, blame people for not living to the best version of their life, because some of us are not that lucky. I mean, if you could afford going to the college, if you could afford working from home and everything, yeah, if you could afford good devices for you to do online college and everything, to take online classes, everything, you have privileges. And not every people could afford the same, yeah. It's really hard for them to just, they could just barely afford daily needs such as food, yeah, food, and maybe give their children proper education as well. Next. Okay, and then this positive peace, yeah. So the focus of IR studies has been shifting, yeah, not only in guaranteeing negative peace, but also positive peace. But then again, some of peace scholars who I knew, yeah, they've been really still emphasizing on how we are going to make sure that the absence of violence or fear of violence remains that way. Again, all of peace studies, yeah, as Francia mentioned before in my CV, I actually started from peace studies. Yeah, so my master degree is actually expertise. My expertise was on peace studies, but then I started to see that it's not enough to just making sure that we are no longer in the condition of war. Yeah. I mean, again, in Indonesia, for example, we've never been to any huge scale of war. Like, okay, the threat is still out there, but then it doesn't mean that we only have to focus on that thing, yeah. Focus on that negative piece. We also have to focus on the positive piece, because otherwise, what's peace without all of the people living the best version of their life, right? So that's why positive peace means justice for all. Yeah, it's the attitudes, institutions, and structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. Peaceful societies in the sense of people could just interact normally with each other. People could afford their basic daily needs. Yeah, people could be together and, I don't know, helping each other in the peaceful conditions. So it's not enough to just talking about this negative peace. Yeah, it's not enough for us to just try to make sure that we don't go to war. I mean, certainly we have to still about how we are going to prevent the war, but once we could manage to prevent the war, what's next? Next. Okay, so Kofi Annan, the 7th Secretary General of the United Nations, he actually discussed, yeah, about the importance of human security. So human security, in his own words, yeah, in its broadest sense, embraces far more than the absence of violent conflict. It encompasses human rights, good governance, access to education and healthcare, and ensuring that each individual has opportunities and choices to fulfill his or her potential. Emphasize on opportunities and choices here. Because again, not a lot of people could afford opportunities and choices. Like, for example, if you are born in poor family, chances are you will still remain a poor person until you grew up, yeah, unless you could just break the curse and somehow rise from the poverty. And we do hear a lot of inspiring stories about it, right? I mean, there are a lot of inspiring stories out there about someone who was born from a really poor family, but then somehow he worked his way up, and then now he could rise from poverty and be a super wealthy person. But what are the odds? Yeah, I mean, it's about 1 in a million, I think, or maybe if I'm being if I'm being modest, yeah, maybe it's 1 in 1,000. So the question is, why those inspiring story only happens to several people? Again, people with privileges would say they managed to rise from poverty because they work hard. Yeah, they work their ass off. But the question is, how about people who has worked his or her ass off, yeah, but somehow still trapped in the poverty circle? Is it their fault? for not being able to rise to the next level, because in the way societies are built right now, yeah, it's a really hard world out there. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and it's even before the pandemic, yeah. Like it's really hard for some people to manage. I don't know, maybe do some saving in order to make sure that he could get proper education and then get more qualifications so that he could rise to the next level of his employment status, his career, yeah, and then he could just do the vertical mobility, yeah. But not a lot of people could afford it. Not every people has the same opportunities and choices. Some of us maybe just started further forward, yeah. Like if you're born in a rich family, and it's not your fault, yeah. I mean, we could not choose what kind of family you were born into, but if you're born in a rich family, you have a head start from the others. Like you have all the privileges. Your parents could afford you nice clothes, could afford to feed you nutritious food, could afford you better education, yeah, and send you to schools until you get a college degree, and then you can start your way from I don't know, entry level employment, and then you can raise your way up and everything. But not a lot of parents could afford that kind of situations, yeah, opportunities for their children. And then we have these questions. So if you could, if you're still poor, yeah, if you could barely feed yourself, don't start a family, don't have children. Well, that might have some truth in it, yeah. But then again, when we are saying it that way, we're being insensitive, yeah, because having children is a privilege, yeah. And obviously, if you could just barely feed yourself, you shouldn't thinking about having kids, yeah, because how would you feed them if you could just barely feed yourself? But the question is why? Why there are a lot of people out there who could just barely feed themselves? Yeah, what kind of opportunities they have? Did they have any opportunity to prove themselves? Did they have any choices to make their life better? So that's why, in a way, human security what human security is trying to say is we need to provide same opportunities and same choices for every individuals, regardless of their status and positions. I mean, if you were born into a rich family, then good for you. Use the privileges. Nobody's stopping you, but be aware of it and own it. Yeah, and use it for the good of others, not just yourself. Next. Yeah, human security is also embedded in General Assembly Resolution number 66/90. It is an approach to assist member states in identifying and addressing widespread and cross-cutting challenges to the survival, livelihood, and dignity of their people. It calls for people-centered, yeah, comprehensive, context-specific, and prevention-oriented responses that strengthen the protection and empowerment of all people. So it's people-centered, yeah, because again, when we are talking about traditional security, yeah, we're talking about negative peace, we're talking about conflict resolution. It's not about people-centered. It's about state-centered, yeah, because we still think in the realism perspective. You know, if you're a student from IR, realism, yeah, it's actually the most mainstream and the easiest perspective of all IR theories, yeah, IR perspectives. And we only put the importance of states above all. We never discuss about the importance of people in the state itself. So that's why human security is important, because we're discussing about the people. It's people-centered. Yeah, we're talking about the dignity of human life here. It's at stake. Next. Okay, so the starting axiom of human security is about freedom from fear and freedom from want. Freedom from fear could derive from a lot of things. Yeah, for example, fear of your own life, yeah, because again, your basic human right is your rights to live, right? And if you feel that your life is threatened, yeah, if you have somebody who's stalking you, or maybe you have somebody who's trying to threaten your life, trying to take your life, so it means that you're not free from fear. And also freedom from want. Freedom from want means that you are capable to afford things that you want. Yeah. And those things that you want should actually limit it to just basic daily needs. The answer is no. I mean, we are human, right? We are allowed to have. When I was younger, when I was a lot younger than you are right now, I used to dream of having PlayStation, yeah, PlayStation, and I don't know, some kind of really fancy laptops, maybe. I dream of having those kind of things, yeah. And some people might say that PlayStation and laptop is actually a fancy things that your life would be okay if you don't have it, right? It's not your daily needs like food and clothes and transportation, maybe. But then, aren't we allowed to want some things that we think could actually make us enjoy life more, right? Like, of course, I'm sure all of you have those kind of things, yeah, that make you think that my life would be better if I have this stuff. So if you are only allowed to have one about, if you're only allowed to want some kind of, again, basic daily needs, then you're not living your life, right? You're just barely surviving. If you could just afford with your income only for basic daily needs, it means you are surviving. You barely survive. You're on the edge, on constant needs to get on the edge. Yeah. You're not living your life. Living your life means you're allowed to have some things that you want in your life and you could afford it. So if you couldn't get what we want, that we think actually would improve our life, you still don't have freedom from one. So again, it is people-oriented. I cannot emphasize enough about this point about human security. It is people-oriented. I mean, it literally has human on the name, human security. It's people-oriented, focuses on community development and human empowerment as a way to prevent conflict and enhance security. Community development. Yeah, we also emphasize on community development because human security believes that we cannot pursue the basic daily needs and provide people the life that they want to if we only pay attention to some people. Yeah, like we're gonna have to raise them from the poverty by themselves as well. It's not like human security is trying to give you all things for free in your life, but it's all about raising the community. Yeah, we are trying to make sure that the community has the capabilities and the opportunities to do so. So that's why human security believes that when all of these basic daily needs for people are make their life much better. Again, it's not a sin if you want to have things that maybe not included in our basic daily needs. Yeah, we are human after all. So that's why community development is important because, especially in countries like Indonesia, yeah, people in Indonesia is really comfortable with the concept of gotong royong. Yeah, and we are really a developed society that thinks that the thing that we have to go forward together. Yeah, maju bersama-sama. So that's why community development is important because we don't want to leave anyone behind. We want to raise the people from the poverty all together at once. It's a process. Next. Okay, so human security consists of 7 dimensions. Yeah. So we have economic security, was the number one. Condition of having a stable income enough for an individual to fulfill their daily needs. Obviously, economic security means that you have decent job, maybe decent job that pays you well. Yeah, pays you not only just the basic limits of UMR in Indonesia, yeah, your minimum wage, yeah, but actually a decent job that pays you accordingly, properly, and then you can save. You don't have to spend all of your income on basic daily needs. Yeah, like for example, if your basic daily needs cost you around I don't know 2 millions maybe. Yeah, it includes your housing and then food and transportation and everything. So if your daily needs is 2 million for a month, then you should look for a job that maybe pays you at least 2.5 million or maybe 3 million. So you can actually save some of your money and then, I don't know, maybe invest on it or maybe try to pursue higher education. So it would give you better opportunities to raise your career. Yeah. But again, not a lot of people could afford this. Yeah. Economic security means that a lot of people has to get the opportunities to afford decent life. Yeah. And I think it's safe to say that this dimension is really hard to fulfill because not a lot of people out there couldn't even afford basic daily needs. Yeah. Like for some poor family, maybe they could not even send their kids to proper school, or maybe they don't send their kid to school at all. Yeah, they just let their kids work for themselves, and maybe they obviously they wouldn't be able to afford nutritious food for their kids. Maybe they only eat, I don't know, tahu tempe. Yeah, doesn't mean tahu tempe isn't delicious. Yeah, they are delicious, but they're not that nutritious. Yeah, and they couldn't afford, I don't know, meals, proper meals with meats on it. Like we have to eat daging, right? If you want to be smart and everything, or maybe even they couldn't even afford fish, yeah, as their meals for the kids. So economic security is really important. Yeah, that's why you put it on number one, because you wouldn't be able to afford other dimensions if you are not free from the freedom of affording decent jobs with decent income. And then we have food security. Yeah, number two, the condition where there is enough number of food for everyone, and any individual has the ability to access the supply of food. Emphasize on access supply of food, yeah, because in some areas, in some countries, they never have any problems with supplying the food. Yeah, they have a lot of they have stock up on food. Yeah, I mean the amount of food is safe, is secure, but there are not a lot of people could access them. For example, here in Semarang City, yeah, we have a lot of, well, Semarang City never got into any problem with hunger or famine. Yeah, I mean we have abundant supply of food here, but we can still see out there that a lot of people, they have to keep begging for money from people if they want to afford just, I don't know, 1 meal per day. Yeah, so it doesn't matter if the food is high in supply when not a lot of people could actually afford to access the food. I mean, the food is there, yeah, right there in front of your eyes, but then you don't have the money to buy the food. So the access to supply of food is equally important to the supply of the food. And then we have environmental security, yeah, protection of an individual or community from threats posed by environmental factors. Again, not a lot of people are really, not a lot of people understand the importance of this environmental security, because I don't think that people has been really paying attention to environment at all. Yeah, like people keep littering anywhere, people keep burning their garbage, burning their trash. Yeah, so I don't think people actually understand what the importance of the environment, because they don't see the effects on themselves yet. People would start talking about the environment when natural disasters happen. Yeah, I mean that's not so natural actually, because disasters such as floods and landslides, it happened because of the ignorance of the people. Yeah, because the people do not pay attention to what the environment needs, so disasters happen. And then health security, the protection of individuals and communities from public health events and issues that actively harms the collective health of the people. Health security is also important because, well, obviously, if you're not healthy, how could you live your life, right? And not a lot of countries out there understand the importance of the health security, and they have yet to make any policies regarding universal healthcare. Yeah, because since health is the most basic human rights that every people should have, yeah, it's really important for people to be able to access any health facilities. Yeah. Well, again, you have to. I agree that you have to pay attention to yourself. Yeah, for example, if you don't take care of yourself properly. If you maybe keep eating junk food and then you got heart attack, it's on you. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that when you got hit by a heart attack, then if you couldn't afford the surgery, then we will just let you die. Yeah? It's not. It doesn't work that way. I mean, some surgeries, some medical procedures that could really cost you a lot of money. And we don't ask to be sick, right? So like some disease, some sickness that is out of our control, yeah, we should be able to make sure that we could get the medical procedures that we need, yeah. Because yeah, health is really expensive, yeah. You will only understand how expensive health is once you get sick. Because when we are healthy right now, yeah, we don't spend a dime, yeah. But once you got sick, and if that's a severe one, yeah, you're gonna have to spend a lot of money on it, and that's why you're gonna have to try to figure out if some people got into really huge conditions of sickness, they're gonna be able to afford the medical procedures that they need. Okay, next. Again, and then we have political security, yeah, protection of individuals' political rights, prevention of governmental oppression, and protection of human rights. Yeah. So it's about human rights. Yeah, the political security actually it's actually put down in the priorities of human security, because political security only works when you already afford all of the previous dimensions. Political security actually means that you can use your vote. Yeah, you can vote, you can participate in political process, and nobody's forcing you to do anything that you don't want to. Nobody's forcing you to choose maybe or elect the candidates or parties that you don't want to. Yeah, so it's actually about your freedom to express yourself politically, and also about protection of human rights. Yeah, so if you feel like your human rights has been violated, then you should be able to report it and maybe have some, I don't know, pursuing your, or maybe suing the people who violate your human rights. The question is, what if the actors who's been violating your human rights is your country or your regime, maybe? Yeah, like what happens in Afghanistan, maybe. Like obviously the Taliban in Afghanistan, they've been violating a lot of human rights for their people out there, and since they're in charge right now, like they literally runs the show in Afghanistan. So I don't think people in Afghanistan has the privilege or opportunities to speak what they want. Yeah, so that's why a lot of Afghanistan's people, they've been fleeing out of their country and seeking refuge. And that's a really good example about political security. Yeah, you're not able to discuss or I don't know, show what you want, yeah. And then personal security, yeah, the protection of an individual from physical harm, guaranteeing the full liberties of an individual, strengthening the rule of law, and the protection of human rights. Personal security means it's about personal, yeah, like, for example, if you are women or girls, maybe, people always say that it's not good for you to walk by yourself in the night, yeah, because you'll be in huge danger, yeah, if you walk by yourself. Well, I think the logic is quite flaws. It has flaws on the logic, yeah, because if only women and girls should be afraid of walking alone in the night, then it means their personal security is actually really violated, yeah, because personal security means that you are able to express yourself and nobody will because of it. Yeah, you are able to, like, what does it matter if women or girls walk alone in the night, yeah, by themselves, right? Why men shouldn't be afraid as well? Why it should be women who should feel afraid and afraid for their lives? Yeah? Because I don't know. Some people might say that if women or a woman or a girl get violated, maybe at the very least got catcalled, or maybe even got sexually harassed, or maybe got raped, yeah, people have the tendencies of blaming the victim. And that's really unfortunate because once a woman or a girl actually got violated by some man, yeah, it means that their personal security has been violated. And then when the societies or the people blame the victims, blame the women, their personal security got hit again. So they got double hit, yeah, for their personal security, because every people, regardless of their gender and race and origin, they should be able to express themselves, and there's nobody who can stop them, including if girls and women want to walk by themselves at night. And then finally, we have community security, yeah, protection of ethnic groups and its identity, the preservation of culture and protection from ethnic or sectarian violence. This is a good example here about Black Lives Matter, because as we know in the United States, it's no secret that African American people are being treated differently or harshly, if I may say. And last year, we have seen the culminated point of the indifferent treatment for Black people. Yeah. So that's why the movement, it rise up for Black Lives Matter. Yeah. And obviously, yeah, Black people in America, they have super hard life here. Like, for example, if you could just maybe start your life with some difficulties you find on video game, you have easy, normal, hard. So if you can choose normal, the Black people in America, they always have to choose the hard life here. Because, yeah, you can see, yeah, even the law enforcement, yeah, they will always see Black people in a different way. Like, if you've seen the movie The Hate You Give, yeah, The Hate You Give, I think the titles, yeah. The Hate You Give, yeah, it's about how a teenager, a Black teenager, African-American teenager, he was going out with his friend, a female friend, yeah, and they were just driving around, and then suddenly they got stopped by a police. They pull over, and then the police asked, and I don't know, I think the police is trying to insinuating that this African American teenager is actually dealing some narcotics, yeah. And then when the police got back to his car, trying to check the driver's license, and then the teenager, the African American teenager, he got into his cars, yeah, through the door to the open window, and then the police thought that he was going to reach out for a gun. So then the police shoot the teenagers 3 times, I think, 3 or 4 times, yeah. And then he died on site. Yeah. He died immediately. Well, and the teenager wasn't even actually reached out for a gun. He was actually reached out for a comb, sisir, you know. So, yeah, it wouldn't happen, yeah, if the teenager who got pulled off by the police was white people. Because apparently in the United States, Black people always equals with crimes. Yeah. So that's an attack to community security, because it's actually designed that way. Yeah. They keep thinking that Black people, African American people are bad news, so that's why they treat them differently. Okay, next. Yeah, so all of those dimensions of human security, all 7 of them, are actually applied through these SDGs, yeah. So if you hear about Sustainable Development Goals, it's all goes way back to human security. Like, for example, goals number 1, no poverty, it obviously refers to economic security, and number 2, zero hunger, is about food security. Number 3, good health and well-being, health security, and everything and so on. Yeah. So that's why those SDGs, yeah, it should be the guidelines of the countries in the world on how they are trying to build how they are trying to develop themselves, how they are trying to develop the people. And actually, Indonesia has been using SDGs as their guidelines in making the RPJMN, you know, Rencana Pembangunan Jangka Menengah. I don't know how to translate it, but it's actually the midterm planning action, I think. So they've been trying to incorporate SDGs in the policies, yeah, the government, but I don't see how it actually matters, yeah, because I don't see how the government actually understands what the importance of human security is. because all the 7 dimensions, they're not just implemented through these SDGs. You have to understand the philosophies behind it, because you cannot say that you give best opportunities for your people if you could only afford some of the dimensions. You're gonna have to afford all 7 dimensions at once. I mean, well, maybe not at once if you have it difficult, if you find it difficult, but maybe one by one. Because, for example, obviously, if you want to have food security, if you want to be able to have access to the supply of food, you're gonna have to have economic security, right? You wouldn't be able to afford good food and healthcare, medical procedures, if you don't have economic security, a good, decent job that pays you a decent payment, decent income. So that's why it all connected, it's all connected, all of those 7 dimensions of human security. So before we talk about sustainable development goals, we're gonna have to understand the philosophies behind it. And I don't think the government understands it really well. Okay, next. Okay, before we continue, maybe is there any questions about the concept of human security itself? Like, maybe do you guys have any questions about the concept, or maybe you find it hard to believe, or maybe you find it too complicated, maybe? Francia, do we have any questions here?
If you guys have any question to Mas Satya, you can raise your hand and I will unmute. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? Okay, there is one question, Mas, from Miss Anissa Antania. Okay, Miss Anissa Antania, you can ask your questions.
Thank you, moderator. Hello, Mr. Satya. Good morning. Actually, my question will be related to number 2. The second point in your presentation, is it the government's responsibility to uphold, or is it the people's? On this slide. So actually, one of my job desks in my current workplace is to supervise the judicial review of PSDN law, Undang-Undang Pengelolaan Sumber Daya Negara. It is currently on judicial review process in our constitutional court, and I've been following one of the hearing from the House of Representatives and from the President. Actually, they told us something that for us the IR scholar is maybe not making any sense. So in this law, actually the government tried to define our security threat, but unfortunately they still using the traditional paradigm. Thus, in this law, they want to form a component cadangan, or yes, this component cadangan, and this component cadangan will later will be given a military training for 3 months, and all participants should have a responsibility to join this component cadangan. So my question is, if the government itself doesn't have enough knowledge on this human security or the new paradigm of security in these international relations, how should we, the IR scholar in that face the chart every day about the declining trend of war, should convince the government to change the paradigm in our security? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nisa. Yeah, I mean, you just make clear of my points before, that this country, in particular, Indonesia, they still think about the traditional way of security. Like, we keep looking outward, you never look inward. Because Well, I'm not trying to say that there's no longer any threat to Indonesia out there. Like we still have to deal with acts of terrorism and everything, but it's not the most important thing that matters right now. Because what would we have when we got into actual war if the people are already died by famine, by hunger? If people already died by COVID, for example, like we've been seeing a lot of deaths, yeah, from the last year alone, from COVID itself, like, I don't know, what number of the casualties, like around 100,000 maybe? Those are lives, those are souls, yeah, that deserve to live. And and we never look at them that way. Yeah, we will just let them die somehow. And most of them, I bet you a lot of, I don't know, maybe more than half of those casualties, they must have been poor people that couldn't afford to go to the hospital, poor people who had no idea what to do once they contracted COVID, yeah. Poor people that have nowhere to go because hospitals are always full and keep rejecting them. So why we keep looking outward for any threats out there that may or may not attack us in the future eventually, while we still have a lot of people here that needs our attention? Yeah, so yeah, I've heard about this plan on drafting people, yeah, drafting people into military. I mean, semi-military maybe, like forcing people to have this mandatory military training. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's not important. Yeah, I mean, okay lah. Somehow maybe we do have threats out there that maybe want to attack Indonesia somehow, but what will we defend from threats outside when we cannot deal with threats inside? People keep dying on our face, yeah. Like literally, people are dying. People dies every day, and it gets faster because of this COVID. And obviously, the government. I might get into trouble by saying this, but obviously, the government has been overwhelmed by the situation, and they still fail to manage the grasp of the situation and fail to provide the basic human security for the people. Yeah, like obviously health security is under attack here. Yeah, but then the COVID does not only attack our health security, it also attacks our economic security, our environmental security, our food security, yeah, which I'm going to discuss next in this presentation. But yeah, that's the point, Nisa. How the government still seeing the word security as in the traditional means. They don't. So what I'm trying to tell you before, Nisa, like how I mentioned about RPJMN, yeah, Rencana Pembangunan Jangka Menengah Indonesia, we have development action plan. Yeah, they only use the SDGs or Sustainable Development Goals as the guidelines. They don't really understand that SDGs was actually derived from the human security philosophies, all the 7 dimensions. And when we are talking about securities, yeah, it literally translates to keamanan, right? So if you want to feel safe, if you want to feel that aman, yeah, if you want to have that feels of secure, yeah, you're gonna have to treat any attack to these dimensions as a threat. Yeah, like for example, for food security, yeah, as I mentioned before, is the abilities for people to have access to food. But what can we see now in Indonesia? There are a lot of people who could not afford to buy food, to buy nutritious food. And people does not see it as a threat. Yeah, like people just keep, and maybe the government just keep thinking about, I'm going to stock a lot of food. Yeah. And then whether the people could afford it or not, it's not my business. Yeah, like my job description, my responsibilities ends with supplying the food, not making sure that people have access to the food. So the government hasn't been really seeing all of this attack to these human securities as a threat. They only define threats as acts of terrorism and maybe acts of war. Yeah, because for some people, for the government maybe, people who died of poverty, people who died of hunger, it's not a threat. It's just common issues, it's just common problems, which happens every day. Yeah, so thank you for mentioning the second question in this slide. Yeah, is it the government's responsibility to uphold, or is it the people's? let me ask you this question, Nisa. What do you think? Is it the government's responsibility or the people's?
For me, it's actually the government's responsibility first, and then the people's. Because if the government already know the paradigm, and then the people who already who understands the problem and can see the real problem in them, and then they can join the government to help each other. I think like that actually.
Yeah, that's exactly the way it should be. Yeah, thank you, Nisa. So it all needs to start from the government. Like otherwise, why would we elect them in the first place, right? Like we elect the people who take charge in the government in order to make sure that our lives could get better. If the government fails to do so, then why should we have them? Okay, this sounds kind of okay, but my point is, yeah, once we elect people to be in charge of our lives, yeah, then they should be able to perform what we expect from them. Yeah, like people keep voting once in every 5 years in Indonesia, and in the hopes that their life could somehow get better. But we can see right now that even after years, yeah, for example, I've been living in Semarang, in Ungaran to be precise, for 7 years, and I don't see any positive changes here. Like it doesn't have any huge improvement here. So of course, obviously, it starts from the governments, but then we could not only rely on the government. We have to do it by ourselves as well. Because as I mentioned before, Indonesia is famous for its gotong royong, or working with each other, yeah, supporting each other. And I think it would be best if you use them, yeah, as for the means of community development. So it's important to raise people from the poverty as a group, not just one by one. We actually raise the communities, not people individuals. Yeah, we give the same opportunities and choices for the people in the same environment, the same neighborhood. We want them to get better together, because that's what gotong royong is in Indonesia. And I believe if people could actually go back to the old-fashioned way of gotong royong, we could achieve it. Yeah, this human security. So it has to go both ways. Yeah, not just from the government or top down. It needs to go from the people as well, or bottom up. So thank you, Nisa, for actually raising this issue. Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, we can continue. Next. Hello, Grace. Next.
The opera. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, then we're going to discuss about how these human security dimensions, yeah, has been attacked since the COVID-19 pandemic began. So we can start from economic security. So how the economic security has been attacking us? Yeah, has been attacked by COVID-19. Yeah, obviously because we went to a lot of lockdowns before. Yeah, we are not allowed to leave our home, and then we have to work from home, school from home, and everything. And obviously it hits people hard, yeah, because not every people could afford working from home. I mean, if you're an employee of some multinational corporations, of course you can work from home. But if you come from poor family who, I don't know, maybe make your life by selling, selling things through the whole cities, of course you lost your source of income, right? It enforces people to do remote working. While the bad news is not every people could afford remote working, because they are not employee of some fancy multinational corporation. They could actually afford them to work from home. Yeah, and the government didn't have any choice. Yeah, like they actually had, yeah, but they managed to keep people locked in their home. Yeah, but they didn't give any, way to make sure that these people does not die of hunger because they lost their source of income. Yeah, the government has been limiting social activities outside the house, and they've been reducing business capacities and operations. But again, yeah, we are talking about the needs of middle class people here. So the government, most of the time, they caters to the needs of middle class people, not the working class and poor people. Yeah, because all of this could work for people who actually come from the middle class, who could still manage to do their work from home and manage their business from home maybe. But then it's actually hard for people who are not involved in those kind of line of work, yeah, like the people who have this UMKM or small business, yeah, micro business. Of course, they went bankrupt, yeah, because people are not able, people wasn't able to access their what they have to sell, and then it's really hard for them to manage their shop, yeah. So yeah, people went bankrupt, and there's nothing to do for them to save their business, and then they lost their source of income. Next. And then we have food security, yeah. It's the high cost of basic food product, economic contraction, and reduced food productivity because, yeah, because of the lockdown and everything, our farmers lost their capabilities to produce food, yeah, and then we're gonna have to import more foods from outside the country. But then again, not a lot of countries are willing to sell their foods to us because they also need the food for themselves, right? So that's why the price of basic food just went high. Yeah, it was quite high at that time. Yeah, when the COVID started to hit, there are times that people couldn't afford a simple meal. Yeah, like nasi rames and everything. The price went really high, yeah, because of the high cost of the production process. Yeah. And what the government did, they just reduced the operational hour of restaurants and cafes. Yeah, they're only allowed to serve less capacity, and then, well, they only gave us the ideas about using delivery or drive-through or takeaway service, which once again, not every people could afford it. Well, maybe it's actually not that expensive to have your food delivered, but remember about the people or the driver who actually delivers your food. What about them? Yeah, like they have to keep working in order to make sure they get the money by delivering your food, or maybe delivering your packages, or maybe even delivering you, yeah, to your destination. And how about them? Like, can they afford the food that they bought, yeah, for you? Like, for example, if you buy a certain pizza, yeah, you know, the super long one, it's expensive, right? And how do you think about the driver who's delivering you this kind of pizzas? Can they buy the pizzas that they're delivering to you? Next. And then environmental security, yeah, it's about increasing medical waste, yeah. For example, the mask you're wearing, yeah, masker, the mask you're wearing, especially the disposable one. Have you ever wondered how those disposable masks that you use, where they end up to? Yeah, like obviously you throw them into the trash bin, but have you ever wondered what's next after your trash bin? Like, where do they actually end up? Yeah, because it's actually considered as medical waste. Yeah, it's disposable. It means that it should be recyclable. Yeah, it should be recycled. Then, have you ever wondered, do they actually get recycled, those masks of yours? Yeah, obviously, if we're talking about hospitals already have incinerator units. Yeah, to destroy the medical waste. They have this. So all of the medical waste, all these syringes and everything, they got burned. Yeah, burned to ashes. So it's actually safe. Yeah, they actually dispose the medical waste properly. But how about outside the hospital? Your mask, yeah, for example, your mask, and maybe if you have syringes in your home, maybe you're doing antigen, rapid antigen or PCR tests by yourself. Yeah, those test kits. Yeah, where do you throw them? Yeah, and where do actually they end up to? It's actually again a threat on our environmental security. Yeah. Like, I don't know if you've seen the news, but I've heard about the news that there are some turtles in the ocean that got its face covered with a mask. Yeah, a mask that covers his whole face. Yeah, and it's really sad. Yeah, because why should the animals suffer the same things like we do? For some waste, they just easily throw it to the ocean, as if ocean is the huge is the biggest tempat pembuangan akhir, maybe. Next. And obviously, security, yeah. It could not get any any more obvious about health security, how COVID-19 has been really attacking our health security, because yeah, hospitals are full of COVID-19 patients right now. So if you want to get medical procedures that have no relations with COVID, you're gonna have to wait in line. Yeah, you wouldn't be prioritized because the hospitals is prioritizing to treating COVID-19 patients, right? So that's why it's important for you not to contract the virus. Because if you contracted the virus and you cannot just shake the virus by yourself at home by doing solitary isolation, yeah, you're gonna have to go to the hospital and make them treat you. And it could be one less case and make the medical personnel to pay attention to more pressing issues, right? Like because of the whole COVID-19, like it's as if other diseases is not as important as equally important anymore. So that's why we have high cost.
Sorry, Mas, are you there? Your voice.
Of healthcare. Yeah, I mean, even before, I don't think people actually understand the importance of getting vaccinated. Yeah, I mean, it's not that hard, yeah, getting vaccinated. You just sit there and let the medical personnel just inject this vaccine into you. It's not even that hurt, yeah. Just even less hurt than getting a mosquito bite. Yeah. It's not that hard getting vaccinated, because once you get vaccinated, it doesn't mean that 100% you are safe from COVID, but actually you are less dangerous to other people. Yeah, you have the low probability of spreading the virus once you get vaccinated. So that's why we need to implement this protokol kesehatan or health protocols on daily activities, and you should get vaccinated in order to make sure that this pandemic just go away quickly. Like we are bored with this COVID-19, we need to start having our normal lives back. Yeah. Again, it's really important for us to make sure that this health security is treated well. Next. Okay, personal security. Yeah, so personal security, I don't think that a lot of people understand the importance of personal security because it's been violated a lot of times here in times of COVID. For example, wearing masks. Yeah, I don't know if it happens here as well, but obviously it happened in the United States. So in America, there are a lot of people who refuse to wear masks because they think it violates their human rights. Yeah, because you cannot force me to wear something that I don't want to. So that's why you cannot force me to wear mask. Yeah. In principle, it's actually right. Yeah, we cannot force people to wear something they don't want to. But we are talking about the threats to human life here, threats to health here. So we could just disregard your concern of your basic human rights of not forcing you to wear you don't want to, something you don't want to, but you're talking about other people here. By wearing masks, you're protecting yourself, protecting others. Because just keeping distance is not enough. You're gonna have to make sure that anything that comes out of your mouth and your nose does not affect other people around you. So that's why the government has been, well, I don't know if they've been forcing people, yeah, but more like persuading or encouraging people to wear masks, yeah, and impose sanctions for, I don't know, several people or communities that's been filing the PPKM, yeah, for I don't know how to translate this, but it's basically telling people to stay at home. Next. And then political security. Yeah, political security. Last year, in Indonesia, we held several local elections. Yeah, we elect local public officials such as governor, and then mayor. Yeah, and a lot of local public officials. Yeah, and it happens in the amidst the pandemic. Yeah, so there were a lot of debates out there whether it's safe to vote in person. And why didn't we just create a system where we can just vote online? Maybe like we can hold schools online, yeah, work from home, work online, and everything. So why didn't we just create some kind of e-voting as well? But then there were a lot of issues. Yeah, there were a lot of points raised. And then the government still decided that you have to vote in person. Yeah, so obviously, if we weren't hit by this pandemic, we would have been able to vote safely, yeah, with no precautions of any threats to our life. Because safely, I don't want to stake my life just by voting. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to risk my life just because I have to, I don't know, cast my vote to some kind of candidates that I don't even know in the first place. You know? So yeah, it obviously threatens the political security that people should have. Next. And then finally, we have community security. Yeah, obviously, again, in Indonesia, people are considered
Sorry, Mas Satya, we can really hear you.
I don't know, seeing their family, seeing their children, seeing their grandchildren. Yeah, so that's why COVID-19, the pandemic, since it forced us to stay at home, we weren't even able to see our families. I mean, if you live in the different cities with your families, it's really hard for you because you weren't allowed to come home and see your family, making sure that they were fine and everything. Yeah, and you were in constant fear about their well-being. Yeah, like, for example, I live in Semarang and my parents are in Jogja, and I keep asking them whether are they okay or something. So I'm in constant fear if my family is safe out there. Yeah, not only just for myself. So obviously in Indonesia, this community security things, it applies to a bigger scales. Yeah, not only just some communities, but the whole people as well in Indonesia. I think that's all. Yeah, Grace, is there next?
Already done, Mas.
Okay. I think that's all then. Thank you, Francia. Should there be any questions or everything, shoot me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mas Satya. What an outstanding presentation and the insightful materials that you have been delivered. It really increased my knowledge and also all the participant knowledge about human security in international relations. Okay, this is the time that we've been waiting for all the participants. If you have questions or something that you want to deliver, please click the raise hand feature, and then I will mention on your name, and then you may ask it directly to Mr. Satya. Okay, if there are any questions, please raise your hand. Okay, there are one questions from Mr. Muhammad Ali Farhan. Okay, you can ask it to Mr. Satya.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Alif, and I would like to ask questions. So, in the context of human security, early in the beginning, you said that for the context with the African American people, they live in constant fear of being harassed by the authorities or by the police. And you said that is part where the human security is lacking. So I would like to ask you a question where how much do you think a portrayal of certain people or certain ethnicity contributes to the human security as well? Like, for example, maybe uh, in the popular media, a certain tribe or a certain race is being portrayed in X way or in some way that maybe the people that consumes the media that didn't know better would think about them in a ways that maybe not very desirable and would violate their human security. So yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Alif. So that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, when I asked you earlier about should it be the government's responsibilities or should it be the people's? Yeah, who should try to fulfill the human security. So again, this is all about same opportunities and choices. Yeah. And these opportunities and choices are given not only by the government, but also to people as well. So for some communities, for example, the Black people in the United States or African American people, the white people, yeah, they do not see the African American people or communities in the same way. So that's why they don't want to give the same opportunities for these African American people. They're trying to even preventing from these African American people to have the decent life that they deserve. Yeah, I mean, again, yeah, as Kofi Annan mentioned earlier that I show you, it's about opportunities and choices for individuals, yeah, to fulfill what their basic daily needs are. And where people are, when people are denied, yeah, the opportunities to have this daily life fulfilled or provided, then we are actually violating the human rights. Yeah, we are not only talking about human security, but also human rights. Because again, human security is derived from positive peace, non-traditional security, but also from human rights. Because you will never discuss about how people could actually be able to afford good food for their children if you're not talking about the human rights of their children, right? So that's why it's not only the government's homework to make sure that this human security is fulfilled, but also the people. Because again, government is formed from the people, right? Like the government, we actually choose the government to represent us. So if the government is full of people who are trying to deny some communities the opportunities, the same opportunities that other communities have, yeah, to make sure that their life is they have decent life, yeah, then we've been violating their basic human rights and their human securities as well as the consequences. So that's why it's important, Alec, for you to understand that it's not always about you. It's not always about us. Yeah, it's always about the human being, the all human being on this planet, yeah, on this country, on this planet, and regardless of your origins, of your color, of your religions, and your race and everything, we should have the same opportunities and choices, yeah, to make our life work. So that's why, again, I have to emphasize that human security does not mean that everything will be provided by you to you by free by the government, but you're gonna have to provide the opportunities for people. So we're not actually trying to make people getting lazy, yeah, because everything is provided, but we're talking about giving the opportunities so people could actually afford life for themselves, yeah, by giving them the opportunities to raise themselves from the poverty and everything. Have you been doing any sort of things like that, Alif? Like, have you seen around you? What about your neighborhood? Do you still see poor people out there?
Well, something I don't think like of a much tangible thing. Probably like just giving something to the poor, or just during the pandemic with my mother, we gave something like a meal to those who need it, or maybe to those ojek online who has been working their sweat out during the pandemic. Maybe I think that is what I think, in my opinion, that is a good step.
Where do you live, Alif? Like, what city you live in?
I'm in Ngalian in Semarang right now.
Oh, in Semarang, yeah. Okay. Yeah, as you can see in Semarang, yeah, Semarang is a big city. And for example, we've never run out of food here, but there's still poor people out there who couldn't afford food. Yeah, the people who give you just give food, yeah, the food are around them, but they couldn't necessarily afford them. Yeah, so I think, yeah, it's good for you to do those kind of things, yeah, sharing food with people, but it doesn't actually solve the problems, yeah, in general issues. I mean, I still respect what you do, what you did, yeah. I mean, it's honorable. It's good for you to do that. But then again, if we need to solve the hunger issues for people around us by us, the people, keep giving them food, so why we have government in the first place? Like, isn't it the responsibility to make sure that these people could afford food, right? So if we keep, I mean, again, it's an honorable thing you did, Alif, and I appreciate it, but it doesn't mean that what you did would actually solve the hunger problem. Yeah, it needs to be taken care of in the highest level, yeah, in the higher level that it's much more than you. Yeah. So I think, yeah, for example, yeah, have you seen the news, Alif, about a woman who paint a baby silver?
Yes, I have actually
Yeah.
yesterday.
What do you think about it? Like, which side are you on? Do you blame the woman or do you blame the people? I don't know. What do you think about the issue?
What I think personally, it is very unfortunate that the government couldn't really well, I think they could, but I don't know if they choose to or not. Maybe I could get in trouble for saying that, but it is unfortunate that the government like have the resources, but maybe like being held by bureaucracy, or maybe being held by other necessity, that they couldn't really focus on that problem. But at the same time, what choice does the mother of the children, or the mother that, or maybe the caretaker, if I'm not mistaken, when I read the caretaker, like what choice do they have? Like, do they starve to death, or do they do what what's the trend right now, to back to people? Yeah, I think that's my opinion on it.
Yeah. So that's the thing, yeah. The baby wasn't even hers. She was, I don't know, borrowing the baby from her neighbor or something. So yeah, obviously it's a bad thing. Yeah, I mean, painting yourself silver is actually dangerous to begin with, let alone doing it on a baby, yeah, on an innocent baby who obviously could not give you consent for painting him or her, yeah, the baby. But then we have to take a look from the bigger picture, yeah, like what forces her to did what she did? Like why would she have to, I don't know, somehow kidnap the baby from her neighbor and paint the baby silver and then begging for money by taking the babies? Like, did she have any opportunities for herself? Did she have any choices for herself to improve her life? I mean, before we judge, yeah, we should see what kind of background she had. Unless if she's part of some I don't know, some kind of syndicate that actually sells baby, maybe. Okay, so we can start judging her. Obviously, yeah, if she's, I don't know, part of syndicates who actually rent babies for and then begging for money on the streets. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's really it's really I don't know what to say. I lost words on it. It's really bad, lah. Yeah. But then we have to see from the bigger picture. Yeah, what if she's a really poor person who just lost her husband and then she couldn't afford food for her children? Yeah, she lost everything. She didn't have a job. She couldn't afford housing, roof over her heads and her families. Yeah, and then she was forced to kidnap her neighbor's baby and then paint the baby silver and then begging for money on the streets. Like we have to see it from the bigger picture, yeah. Because from what I've heard, the dinas sosial actually judged her, yeah. Like the dinas sosial shame her, I think, actually. While, in my opinion, we should shame the dinas sosial. Like, I mean, it's literally your job, yeah, to make sure that the well-being of the people is actually on your hands. Dinas sosial, like literally social, right? So before you judge the woman who begs for money by painting a baby silver, what have you done for the women? Well, what have you done for her? Thank you, Alif. Any next questions? Francia?
Okay, there are several questions in the chat box, Mas. I will read it for you. Okay, the first one is from Pratama Indra. He said he's sorry because he cannot turn on his camera because he's on the ride. And he want to ask questions. How could we really define human security since everyone doesn't have the privilege of feeling secure? How to make it fair for these people? Thank you. That is the question, Mas.
Well, okay, well, that's a $1 million question. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Pratama, by the way. Yeah, again, it always comes back to who's more responsible to uphold the human security. Is it the government or the people? Yeah. Well, again, I, for one, think that it still leans heavily on the government because they have all the resources, they have the responsibilities, they have all the means to make sure that people could get the life that they deserve. Once again, through the political security, we vote people to represent us in the government, to rule us in the government. Yeah. So that's why when we place them as the public officials, they have the moral responsibility to make sure that at least the people who voted for them is having a good life, right? So that's why the feelings of insecure, if you still have them, it means that the government fails to provide you the secure feeling. Yeah, I mean, well, feeling secure is kind of privilege. Yeah, it's a luxury. Not every people could afford it. But again, it doesn't come from ourselves to feel the feeling secure. We couldn't just tell ourselves you have to feel secure. No, it doesn't work that way. Yeah, it's not about our state of mind. Yeah, the feeling secure things. It's actually about the way we feel the threats outside ourselves. Yeah. Like if I'm not able to afford food for my kids tomorrow, you're not still free of freedom from one. Yeah, you're still doubting yourself. You still have doubts whether you could live to see another day. And it's really sad actually. Yeah, because again, every soul, every lives are really important. They matters. Yeah, and nobody should live like I don't know, feeling like their life is always on the edge. Yeah, nobody should feel like they just barely trying to see another day. Like people should enjoy their life, and it starts with providing basic daily needs for them. Yeah, hopefully it answers. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Satya, for the answer. There are several more questions. Next one is from Ariana. She asked, "Is human security more morally justifiable than national security?" Thank you. She said she can turn on her camera because she's on her way right now.
Okay. Well, again, it's another good questions. Yeah, morally justifiable. Well, what considers morally justifiable anyway? Like, again, I never downplay the importance of national security. Yeah, as in traditional security, like obviously we still have to face outside threats. Yeah, for example, act of terrorism. Like we kept getting hit by terrorism. So I'm not trying to downplay the danger of act of terrorism. But then again, we have to trying to do the balance here. Yeah, like we already have Ministry of Defense, right? We already have military. We already have the army, the air force, the navy, and everything. Let them think what national security actually means. Let them deal with it. It's on their job description, right? So I don't mean that I shouldn't concern myself with national security. Yeah, I mean obviously I still have to concern myself with national security and you as well. But then when we're talking about human security, it emphasizes on people. Yeah, it's people centered. And who are people actually? Me, you, all of us, right? So people actually means all of us. Yeah, and nobody left behind. when we're talking about people. So that's why if you say it takes a whole village to raise the children, I'd say it takes a whole country to raise a community, to raise people. So that's why you have to keep talking and discussing and raising awareness about human security, because it's all about people, not about the state. Yeah, let the people who are in charge of the state deal with the national threats, national security. So we can focus on what really matters here, the people, the human security. Because as I mentioned earlier, what good a country without any people on it, without any people actually living on it? Because people keep dying, day by day, people keep on dying, and it really, the numbers gets really staggering because of COVID-19 pandemic, right? So I think hopefully it answers Miss Ariana. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Mas Satya, for the answer. Okay. So there are more questions. The next one is, how has the globalization changed human security across the world? From Puji Ayu Larasati.
Okay, globalization, Okay, Puji Ayu, Okay. So here's the idea, Actually, for my dissertation proposal, I'm trying to propose a new system in order to make sure that the human security fulfilled properly. So I'm proposing this concept called quadruple helix. So helix means actors. When we are talking about helix, single helix, we are talking about government. When we are talking about double helix, we are talking about governments and the business. When we are talking about triple helix, we are talking about the government, business, and academics. And for some time now, a lot of business models and a lot of things for human security has been done by this triple helix here. So it's from the government, the business, and the academics. And it's not bad, I mean, it was decent actually up until now. But then, because it all came from the government, the business, and the academics, it has the tendencies of going top down. So they never actually ask what the people needs. They just think the people needs this kind of stuff, and they just put it down on them. They never ask what the people actually need. So that's why I add one more helix there, the people or the society. So that's why I call it quadruple helix. And we're actually involving the people to discuss what do you need, what you actually need. So this quadruple helix, I was hoping that this could be the new concept that actually could provide the community development, to price the people together in order to make sure that they could working together and raise themselves from poverty, fulfill all of their needs from all the dimensions of human security. And I was hoping that the globalization, in this case, which is we are talking about how states are connected and everything, I was hoping that once we could apply this system, this helix in Indonesia, maybe in some, I don't know, pilot project in several provinces, if it's proven successful, I would try to propose using this helix to increase the cooperation between states. So globalization means that we no longer have any limit on how we interact with people from other countries, right? So it could help human security in the sense of how we raise the awareness. For example, in Indonesia, maybe not a lot of people have heard about human security. I'm sure you haven't heard human security as well before you join my session here. But some people in other countries, in the United States maybe, or some countries in Europe, they're already aware of this concept of non-traditional security. So I'm hoping that globalization could actually be the bridges between these countries that already apply this human security to the countries who hasn't, such as Indonesia. And once my quadruple helix concept is up and running and proven successful, I would also try to apply it in other countries, and see how it works, whether it works in other countries as well or not. And maybe somehow we could make the networking between states who apply this helix, and somehow we don't only provide the human security for people in some countries, but in several countries at the same time. So I mean, it's still a dream. It's still far away because I even started my PhD yet, but that's my hope and my dreams, GIU. So thank you for bringing that up, the globalization. I'm really looking forward to making sure that this human security is well known across the world, and somehow the countries could join together and make some networks that pay attention to human security and trying to raise the people together. Yeah, because SDGs is not enough. Thank you, Puji Ayu.
Okay, thank you so much, Mas Satya, for the answer. Okay, there are more several questions. The next ones from the chat box. From Areta, could public diplomacy be an effective medium to promote and advocate security for a nation, group, and individual? And has it been implemented effectively?
Okay, public diplomacy. Yeah. I think I need more information before I answer. Yeah. Could you maybe tell me what kind of specific public diplomacy you have in mind, Areta? Can you unmute her?
Should I mention it right
Yeah,
now?
I mean, I need more information from you. What kind of public diplomacy you have in mind?
Maybe a public diplomacy I had in mind is like from a certain group of people, maybe supported by the governance, to promote or advocate matters of security. Maybe in this times through social media, maybe through Instagram or through something like YouTube or something. So it's like heavy on social media or networking through internet, I think. How do you think about that section of public diplomacy, Mas Satya?
Well, okay. So I don't think it hasn't been even done yet. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any efforts to raise the issue of the human security. I mean, again, not a lot of people are familiar with this concept. Yeah, so I don't think there's been any efforts to make sure that public diplomacy could also bring this issue as well. I mean, public diplomacy could bring a lot of issues, yeah, such as gender mainstreaming issues, such as environmental issues, such as sustainable development issues, but not particularly about human security, because it's actually again quite a strange concept, maybe, yeah, because that's what I've been trying to do lately, because all of my researches that have been done, it's all about human security. So I'm trying to raise awareness through my researches, but again, obviously, I understand that my researchers maybe could only reach out to several people, which is also academicians like me. So really raising any issues on the people, yeah, common people. So I think we need to start there, Areta. If you want to try public diplomacy as the means to raise the awareness for this issue of human security, we're gonna have to understand what human security is. Yeah, like you're gonna have to learn from the best, because, well, to be honest, yeah, to be completely honest with you, I didn't actually learn human security in particular. Yeah, I only had one course of human security when I was pursuing my master degree, but it was only 3 SKS. It's only 3 credits that I took for this course, so I have to learn by myself. I've been doing some self-learning about these human security issues, so that's why I'm pursuing my PhD in the same area, yeah, because I would like to enrich my knowledge before I spread the issues. So I think it's important to understand the philosophies behind it first, Areta, before we're trying to promote and raise this awareness for this issue. But I think it's a good idea using public diplomacy, because nowadays younger generations have the tendencies to pay a lot of more attention towards social media. So yeah, I think it's doable.